Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the No Laying Up podcast. Solly here, got an interview coming shortly with Wyndham Clark. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Blade and Bow. As golf enthusiasts, we've come to appreciate the tradition of celebrating a round of golf with a round of cocktails. At the 19th hole, we've teamed up with Blade and Bow Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey because they elevate those celebrations, honoring the legacy of the golf clubhouse. Crafted with the same dedication and skill as the perfect swing, Blade and Bow is more than just a whiskey. It's a testament to craftsmanship and tradition. It offers the opportunity for a refined golf experience on and off the green. And what better way to toast to 18 holes than with a signature cocktail at the 19th, the Kentucky Caddy, a favorite of professional golfer. And interview that you're about to hear and fellow Blade and Bow bourbon lover, Wyndham Clark. It's a blend of fresh lemonade, peach tea, mint, and Blade and Bow served over ice. It's the perfect companion for celebratory moments at the 19th hole. Visit bladeandbowwhiskey.com to discover more about the premium bourbon and savor every moment responsibly. Blade and Bow, Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, 45.5% alcohol by volume. Stitzel-Weller Distilling Company, Louisville, Kentucky. Please drink responsibly. Without any further delay, here is our conversation with Wyndham Clark. So looking back at 2024, what are you most proud of when you look back at the season? How do you grade yourself?
I don't know. I'd say it's a high B plus, but coming off of my best year ever, and to follow that up is always challenging. And the expectations of winning a major, people expect you to win more and do that every year. And I want to do that, and I hope I can get to that level. But I came onto the scene fast, and to expect that, I think it was a little unrealistic. And so, all in all, I won a tournament. I finished top three times. I had multiple top tens, multiple top 15s. Played on the Olympic team, played on the President's Cup team, finished eighth on the overall FedEx. I'd say it was a really good year, but people kind of overlook it. I felt like it was pretty underrated, and I was, I guess if I look at it now, I'm proud of what I did, but in that stretch where I was kind of not playing good, obviously it was frustrating, but yeah, these last 2 years have been an amazing run for me, and I'm looking forward to the next few.
Well, because for us on the outside, I don't want to say you came out of nowhere. I mean, everyone was familiar with you. You're on tour for 4 years. You are producing right around, around average PGA Tour level. And then you took this massive leap in 2023, not only just winning the majors, but your iron play took a massive leap. Your driving, ended up taking a massive leap. What if you had to, I'm sure it's a million things along the way that get you there, but if you had to pinpoint something that kind of predicated the leap or that you would owe it to, kind of where does your mind go there?
Kind of two things. Two things. I'll give you. One thing was about 2.5, 3 years ago. I fired or stopped working with any swing coach and decided to just work on it on my own and own my own golf swing. Everyone's always said I've had an aesthetically pleasing golf swing, but yet I didn't necessarily know how to control the golf ball. I didn't own my swing. I didn't know how to fix it when things were off. And so when I kind of decided to do it on my own and have my caddy to help me, that's when I started really improving on that iron game and the ball striking, because when things were off, I knew what to do, and things were on, I knew how to maximize that. And when I was under pressure, I knew what shot to hit. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing was improving on the mental game, hiring somebody with Julie, and really tackling that and spending a lot of time on that daily. And early on, I didn't quite see the benefits that year, but I was making a lot of cuts. I was having a lot of top 25, 20 finishes. I was in contention. Then I started having top 10 finishes. And then boom, I won my first tour event. And then shortly after that, win a major. And then I started having all these great finishes, and ultimately finished third in the FedEx last year. So those are kind of the two things that really stand out. And so, now it's trying to get back to like finding how to still improve. And, that's kind of the struggle now. But those two things really helped.
Well, I'm curious. Your work with Julie was documented in the Netflix series, and it's been you've given a lot of credit to her, and I'm kind of more curious to pick your brain on when things didn't go like you had this rise. You're up at the top of the game. You're a lip out away. I lost a lot of money on that play. I had you to win the Players this year, and I'm still bitter about that lip out. But
Hey, so I can't be more bitter than me. So
but I'm curious how the mental stuff when things didn't go. When things didn't go as well for the rest of the year at certain parts of the year. How did the mental game kind of work you had done? How did it help you in that period? What was your experience like with kind of how your mental approach was during times when the golf wasn't going as well?
Yeah, so, that stretch, so I won Pebble and then played great at Bay Hill and then great back-to-back at Players, almost had 2 wins. Those were pretty frustrating for me too. The Bay Hill one, not as much. Scotty just played amazing on Sunday. But the Players was, I mean, that's another life-changing event to win, and, it is our 5th major, and I felt like I really had it, and I missed 2 short putts on Sunday and then missed the putt on 16, then obviously 18, and so I really had a chance to win that. That's obviously frustrating having the heartbreaks, but what really bothered me was when I got to the Masters and missed a cut there and then played poorly at the PGA and had that stretch. I really had to dive deep. I had to make sure that, all the stuff that I was working on, we had to really continue to work on the mental game, and that's when I found out I was so focused on results and I went back into my old ways. And so just because I had an amazing year last year and I grew leaps and bounds mentally, I'm still human, still make mistakes, and some of the old is still in there. And so that's what we found ourselves last year in that stretch for about 2 months. I was so focused on results, and after 9 holes on Thursday, or even after the first round on Thursday, I was already thinking about results and frustrated that, well, now I'm not going to win because I shot even par and I'm so far behind, or whatever it is. And that's when we kind of got back into, all right, we need to focus on our process, the things that helped us play good. And so we kind of went back to the elementary steps that we worked on when I first started working with Julie. And then I started finding myself having some good finishes. We ended the year with, 5 or 6 top 10 or 15 finishes and started playing some good golf. And I was, kind of bummed, honestly, that the season ended because we were starting to trend where I felt like in a few weeks we were then maybe gonna, really do something special and win. So yeah, I mean, so that's kind of what we did. And this off season, there's going to be a lot of work that we got to do because I felt like I went up a lot last year and then plateaued a little bit, and I felt like I went down in my mental game a touch. And so I'm hoping to get that rise again. And even if it doesn't result in wins and whatever, at least my feelings on the golf course need to get better. I definitely took a few steps back. I felt like at the middle, kind of end of the year.
Well, that's why I kind of wanted to ask because I find that part interesting. You're not the first person I've heard say that in terms of maintaining practice of your mental game is harder than you might think. You might think you have mental golf figured out when you start playing this amazing golf, but it's almost the same way you need to practice and maintain your physical nature of it. Some maintenance on the mental side is needed along the way, so you don't skip ahead to results exactly like that. Especially when you're comparing yourself to a really high peaking version of yourself as well. That's an unreasonable expectation to hold yourself to.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing I like to call them daily disciplines, and trying to stick with your daily disciplines. It's amazing what that for the mental game, daily disciplines for your mental and kind of spiritual life is so huge because then it helps you when you get into certain circumstances. Your mind is just already like just trained, and your training kicks in and you just react in the way that you want, versus if you get away from that, you start falling back into old habits and doing things you don't want to do. And and it's tough too. Like, you could be in a great mental game on the golf course, but then outside influences away from the course can really affect your golf game. And that's what's so tough about golf is everything that's going on in your social and personal life typically comes inside the ropes in golf. I mean, you saw it with Tiger. He was great for so long, and then when his personal stuff got to a certain point, it started affecting his game. It does it to all of us, and that's what's so challenging. So it really is a huge balance, especially in golf, to have your life off the course good, family situation good, your mental game strong, and obviously your physical game strong too. Then once you get inside the ropes, that's when guys play their best golf. And so it goes to show someone like Scotty and Xander how good they played this year. Clearly, they have their work life family balance in check, because it is very challenging, and there's always different things coming at you. I mean, as you start playing good, more expectations, more time, more media, more everything is thrown your way, and it starts to distract you from the things that really matter, which is trying to play your best golf or trying to be the best husband, boyfriend, or father that you can be.
So I laugh at that just a little bit of like, yeah, Scotty went to jail this year. I mean, come on, he doesn't have his off course life really that much in
Well, that
check.
was, I know that. I mean, that is crazy to think that happened.
So we hear a lot of stuff about how experience in these team events, how valuable that is. I'm curious. You're on the Ryder Cup team last year in Rome. You just played in the President's Cup as well. What was something you took out of your first team experience in Rome that you took to Montreal? What was kind of like what was like being an experienced team member for Team USA playing in the President's Cup this go around?
Yeah, I mean, you really don't know what you don't know as a rookie. So going in there, obviously you have certain expectations and you think it's going to be this way and then it's totally different and so I learned that our time is not our time when we're there. So when you show up, we have so many things that we have to do from media stuff, pictures, galas, meet and greets, whatever it might be. And so in there they sprinkle in some golf time. And so if you don't show up prepared, you're not going to have time to get prepared. And I felt like, I had my best year ever last year. The playoffs were so hot, temperature wise, it just felt like such a grind. And so when I finished at East Lake last year, I just like, I don't even want to be around golf. So I didn't touch a club for 2 weeks. And I honestly showed up to Rome not prepared. And that's my fault. But I was just so exhausted. And I felt like a lot of us did. We all took time off and we were like, we just need to step away from the game. And I think we all expected that we could just show up and be what we were just 4 weeks ago. And even though some of us are the best in the game, you still have to be tournament sharp and mentally tournament sharp. And I just don't think we were. So this year, I wanted to make sure I was prepared. And even though I didn't necessarily have the best record this year of, wins and points, I played amazing golf for the first three matches. We just ran into a buzzsaw. I know strokes gained the first day I was one of the best on our team, and then the next two matches we were playing really good. Tony and I played nice. We were 1 under through 12 holes, alternate shot, which is honestly pretty good on a tough day. And then Keegan and I were 5 or 6 under through 14 or 15 holes and lost on the 15th hole because those guys were like 11 or 12 under. I mean, we just ran into buzzsaws. And so I felt like I did, my side and of things of working on my game. And I'm hoping that a lot of guys will start doing that in the future. I mean, our team this year, I felt like was really prepared. We all either went and played a tournament or stayed tournament sharp. And so I'm really looking forward to, the Ryder Cup in New York, hoping I make the team because I feel like we have a great nucleus right now of guys that are really close and are friends, but also obviously very good. And I feel like if we could try to keep this core for a few years, I think we could really go on a nice run.
How does it from the outside? It feels like I mean the Keegan selection as a captain was out of left field. Not a lot of us out on the outside saw coming. I don't know if you would have seen it coming. It didn't seem like a lot of guys inside the circle really knew that was percolating. But what does it? Do you get a sense that Team USA is undergoing some sort of cultural shift with a decision like that? You played for Zach Johnson, you played for Jim Furyk. This is a player who's under 40 years old, who's just played on the most recent President's Cup team. It certainly seems like that from the outside. I'm curious, kind of what you think, what we should expect from a culture perspective of how you think Team USA is trending in the future.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Keegan being the captain, I think, to be honest, and probably what really happened is they didn't plan on, let's say, 10 years ago, they probably are expecting either Tiger or Phil to do it.
Yep.
Phil goes to live, so that takes that off there, and then Tiger declined it, and then they're like, okay, who do we put? And I think they chose one of the best guys. I mean, Keegan has an amazing career. He's playing amazing golf. He could literally qualify for the team. He's playing so good, and then also he has so much passion and growing up. Yeah, I know New York isn't quite New England, but like growing up in that area, he's used to it and that's where he's from. I think he was the perfect pick. And then as far as kind of changing the culture, I think it's great. I think the younger, I mean, our team's really young. We don't really have, I mean, Keegan and Tony would be really the only two vets that were on our team this last year. And I just think our team's continuing to go that way. So having younger captains, I think is pivotal. I think the game's changed a lot, and seeing how things were maybe in Rome and how now things were at the Presidents Cup, I can already see that shift. I think I applaud Furyk for how great he did. He had younger captains in Snedeker and Kisner, and then obviously sprinkled in Stewart. And Justin Leonard. So he had kind of a mix of it. And I know Keegan's just only going to have younger guys, but I think it's a great shift because the game kind of has evolved from, let's say, when Furyk and Zach were really playing at their peak and when they were part of these teams. I mean, our guys are used to having really good gyms now. Everyone's in the gym before and after the round. We're very spoiled on tour with how good we eat. Everyone eats healthy. Guys aren't drinking beers after rounds. They're not, going out and doing that. We're all really close. So we want to be we want it to feel like we're part of a team versus having it segmented, which I've heard other, clubhouses and stuff were like that. The wives and girlfriends are really close. So we're really a close knit team right now. And I think that's great. And so I just think they need to make some adjustments. And what they did at the President's Cup, I thought was fantastic. We all were really, I felt like they set us up in the atmosphere that we could play our best golf, and we played amazing. I mean, we were trying to get to 20 points. What did we get to? 18 and a half. And so we were close. And that's kind of becoming the expectation for our team is to try to not just win, but to dominate. And so it's kind of a cool atmosphere.
Tell me about how the planning goes for how Jim Furyk necessarily did it at the President's Cup. When did you know who you're going to be playing with? How many matches? Were there any like variations to a particular plan that were kind of dependent on this? You might do this, this, and this. I think if I went back to Rome, I'd heard some rumblings of maybe some guys not being as certain about what they were going to do. And I'm curious if that process was different in your two experiences.
Yes, very different. I think the transparency this year was awesome on Jim's part. He told me about 2 weeks in advance. Obviously, the team had to be set, and so it was right after East Lake, and then it was maybe a week of them talking with the stats guys, talking with every player about each guy, whatever. So then a week after the Tour Championship, he goes, "Hey, Wyndham, I'm thinking of putting you alternate shot with Tony. What do you think?" And I said, "Awesome." And he goes, anything you want to, like, you can say you don't like it, whatever. And he just opened that up, and I said, "No, I love Tony. We have a history. His caddy and my caddy are close. I feel like we complement each other really well." And he said, "Perfect. We love it." He plays the left dot. What ball do you play? I said the 19X. We both got each other's golf balls, so we practiced for a couple weeks. And then a few days after that, he goes, "We're thinking of putting you with Keegan for best ball." And he goes, "We're honestly probably not going to switch our teams up." And I was like, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I think statistically, all these work the best, all you guys together. Obviously, depending on if someone doesn't feel good, they get hurt, or some guy's game is just awful, there is contingency plans. But we really want to have the transparency so that you guys know and can prepare together." And so I thought that was awesome. And so I knew way ahead of time. Keegan and I started a text between each other. Tony and I started a text between each other. I got them special gifts for that week so that, we just felt like it was within the team. We were also a team, which was really cool. And, I think our, like, the wives and girlfriends got on they were all like, "Hey, we're a team." And so it was really cool. And Jim did little things that I thought was smart. We had team dinners. I was always sitting with Tony and Keegan at the team dinners. And so it was like our little pod of us being together. And so it made it really cool. And I'm hoping becomes a staple. And it sounds obvious. It sounds like, well, that's what you
No,
should
it's
do.
yeah.
But there has been in the past, guys, multiple, not just last, Rome, but other ones where guys were like, "Yeah, there wasn't the transparency that Jim had." And so I think it was amazing having Keegan on this team
Yeah.
to see how good Jim did, so that he goes, "I want to make sure I do those things." And then obviously you take certain things, add certain things. And so I think Keegan's going to do an amazing job.
That's super interesting because I mean, even Jim referenced himself. Lessons learned, I guess, from when he was the captain in France in terms of being planned out and ready with his pairings earlier on than midday, right? He specifically said that in an interview of how he did things there, and that's I'd be curious as a question more for him than it would be for you of the kind of culture that you're talking about right there. One, that sounds like stuff Europe does, and I was curious to pick your brain on just what you see on their side of the Ryder Cup that you would want the U.S. to emulate. But you just gave off a couple examples there that I hear that I'm like, that sounds like the kind of culture that gets me ready to run through a wall as someone that roots for Team USA.
Yeah, I mean, that was honestly one of the biggest shocks when I played for the team in Rome was just that in itself. Was it was like, okay, I didn't really know who I was playing with and didn't know the situation. And so I was just kind of out there on the range, and then they'd come up and say, "All right, Wyndham, you're going with so and so," and you're like, "Okay, I didn't even play practice round with him," and so it just
Yeah.
was disjointed. And so this was awesome. And let's say I'll give you an example. On Saturday when we had the 36 hole day at the President's Cup, he told me, he goes, "Wyndham, I'm going to put you and Keegan out in the morning. Yeah, I'm gonna put you and Keegan out in the morning. I'm gonna sit you in the afternoon. You good with that?" And I was like, "Yeah, understand." He goes, "You played. That'll be 3 matches in a row. We'll rest you in the afternoon. Come cheer us on. Work on your game. Do whatever you need, and then be ready for singles." And we knew the night before, and so he told everyone, "Hey, I'm sending you guys for morning and afternoon, or you're sitting the morning, you're playing the afternoon." And I guess that hasn't been relayed in the past, and which is just crazy to me.
Yeah.
So you can just prepare mentally. You go, okay,
Yeah.
I got to prepare for the morning. It is best ball. I'm going to go and make sure that I have my best game so we can go out there and win. And I'm going to be thinking about birdies, and I know the holes I'm playing. Or if it was alternate shot, you start visualizing that, hey, I know I'm playing just alternate shot. I'm going to visualize my tee shots, the putts I'm going to have, the iron shots I'm going to have in. And that's, I mean, it just sounds like no brainer, but finally I felt like that happened this year. And so there's no shock that we, in my opinion, had so much success because we do have the best squad and we are some of the best players in the world. You just need to set us up for success. And I feel like they're doing that now.
Yeah, that's really encouraging to hear. I think so. You mentioned you sat out Saturday afternoon. That afternoon in the matches. I'm assuming you just made no headlines, no controversy or anything came from anything you did
Oh,
that
I
night. You
was
must
just
have been you're
there.
back resting in the clubhouse. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. I didn't do anything. I don't know what you're talking
It's
about.
so golf, dude. I love this stuff. I love the, Tom Kim, Siwoo Kim, all the trash talk back and forth. The social post catches you giving them the night back after Siwoo did it on 15. People had a really strong go at you about that. I'm in on all that stuff. I'm curious if you were kind of what if you got it, felt any blowback from that, or if you have any details you want to share from that.
Yeah, I mean, there's more of a backstory to it. So that morning, I played Siwoo and Tom. It was Keegan and I, and I've never seen more putts made in my entire life. It was like I said, Keegan and I were 5 under through. Just to give you some stats, we are 5 under through 14 or 15 holes. Our stats guys told us afterwards, on average, 6.5 is the over under on guys that win matches or lose. So if you can try to get to about 6 to 7 under, you're more than likely going to win the match or at least go to 18. We were 5 under at 15 and lost, or actually 5 under going to the 15th hole and lost. They were 12 under through 15 holes, so we just got buzzsaw. And we got to see them, you know, celebrating and gallivanting all around the greens in the morning, watching putts being poured in from everywhere. I mean, it's one thing to make 5 and 10 footers, but to make 20 footer and 40 footer and chip in and 30 footer and 50 footer, it was just like, what do we got to do? So we saw it that morning. It pissed us off, and then that led us to obviously watching in the afternoon. Keegan, Tony, and I all showed up on the 11th hole of that match of Xander and Pat. And sure enough, Siwoo makes a 35 footer from off the green. And King goes, "Should we leave?" Like, I don't know if it's just us or should we leave? Because every time we're around, these guys just make putts. And we were so pissed. We thought about leaving. And then Pat makes it on top of him. And so at that point, we go nuts because we're like, LFG, let's go, baby. And we were so pumped. And I think that's when some of the hostility started because they were walking by us and we were so excited, especially Keegan and I. And so, we were yelling for our guys. And I remember Sibo and those guys walked by and looked at us and kind of were pissed that we were so excited. I mean, we're the away team. There's no fans rooting for
Yeah.
us. And so we're trying to create noise. So then we proceeded to watch some of the best President's Cup golf I've ever seen. Made putt after made putt, amazing shot after made shot, amazing shot. And then it leads to the 16th hole. We were right there. I mean, I was 15 yards away from PC when he chipped it up there to gimme. And they were in a spot that, I mean, their ball was plugged or not plugged, whatever, and it didn't look good. And it looked like more than likely they're not going to get up and down. And so we're going to take a 2-up lead going to the last 2 holes. And then for him to make that was literally one of the best shots I've ever seen and witnessed. The level of difficulty and obviously the circumstance was out of this world. And I love Siwoo and a lot of his celebrations. I mean, that guy has some serious cojones, making that putt on what was that Friday to shut us out. I mean, I have nothing but good things to say to him. With that said, I know he was probably excited, but that celebration of a night, you usually do it when you close out the match or there's no way, if they were to go up two with two to play, 100%, I'd say, wow, that's the most cold thing I've ever seen. But doing that when you're only tied, Tony and I looked at each other and we're like, did he really just do that? He goes, they just tied the match. So then they tie 17 and we go to 18 and they both hit the green. And Tony and I are walking up, and he goes, "Hey, if PC makes this and they don't make it, we're giving them the night." And I said, "100%, we're doing it." Now I think Tony was maybe in the back just doing it.
Pretty quiet.
I might have gone up just because I was so pissed of losing to them earlier. I might have gone up a little closer to them and gave them the night, and obviously got in trouble for it. But hey, if they're going to dish it out to us, I feel like they got to be able to handle it coming right back at them. And PC made one of the best. I got to witness Patty Ice in person twice. Once him being my playing partner, and once being right there by the green making it. So it was really fun. I don't regret it. I think it was great. I think it's good for the game, and
Sure.
hopefully no one hates me for it. But that's the full story on it.
That's great. Again, like I said, I was cheering on Siwoo and Tom Kim making all the putts, doing their. I knew
Oh,
it
it
was
was
gonna. It
amazing.
gets under people's skin, but like that's kind of the point of team golf, man. We watch all this stroke play all year long. Like, give us all that. We jokingly. There's always this sentiment that goes around these team events of like, you just don't do that, and it's like, says who? Like, have some freaking fun with this event. Like
Oh,
Ryder
I know.
Cup and it always seems like the U.S. gets made out to be the bad guys in all these
It,
situations.
every single time. I mean, it's honestly that was one of our talks in the room. Is like, hey, they're going to do everything they can to try to promote the international team, bring us down. Everyone wants them to win. And that was one of our chips on our shoulder was like, no, we're going to continue our dominance. And they could say we're the bad guys. We did nothing bad. I mean, we weren't the ones celebrating on greens. We weren't doing any of that stuff. I mean, we were just going about our business. But yeah, I think it's great. I honestly, I love it. I don't care. There was controversy last year at the Ryder Cup. There's controversy this year. I think it's great for the game of golf. I think it's fun. I think it makes, it's even fun for us because it gets gives us motivation and gets, kind of lights some fire under our asses to be like, all right, well, then we're going to show you. So I think it's great.
A quarter century of breakthrough golf ball innovation continues this week in Las Vegas with the introduction of the new 2025 Titleist Pro V1 and Pro V1X golf balls on the PGA Tour, marking the start to year 25 for the game's most trusted golf ball models. It was October of 2000 at the PGA Tour's Inventus Classic in Las Vegas that the original Pro V1 was made first available for players to use in competition. The story that I've heard is that Titleist was expecting about 25 players to put the Pro V1 in play that week. They came to Vegas with around 60 dozen balls. By Wednesday, Titleist reps were actually dividing up dozens and taking sleeves back from other players to make sure everyone who asked for a Pro V1 could actually play it. It turned out 47 players made the immediate switch, including the eventual winner, Billy Andrade, marking the single greatest pluralistic shift in equipment usage in the history of the PGA Tour. Pro V1 and Pro V1X, which was introduced in 2003, have been the overwhelming choice of players on the PGA Tour ever since. Stay tuned to Titleist social channels this week as they document the tour launch of the new 2025 models and bring you inside the testing and golf ball fitting processes for the best players in the world. Back to Wyndham Clark. Tom Kim's comments about the US American players swearing at them. Paul Tesori backed those comments up recently. One, do you think that was about you and what you're saying of just like the cheering you were doing kind of in the direction of your teammates, but maybe they were in the kind of crossfires of it? He said that American players were swearing at them, which it kind of sounds like it may be talking about your situation there where you're giving the LFGs from the sideline here. Do you think it's kind of a little bit of wires crossed as to, it didn't sound right when he said that players were swearing at him. I can kind
Yes.
of, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I mean, I was shocked that Tom said that in the interviews afterwards. I I was with everyone that was watching that, and I didn't hear anyone specifically saying, "F you, Tom," or anything negative towards them. There was cussing, but it was towards our team going, "LFG, let's go," and we were all saying, I mean, we're in the heat of
Sure.
battle. We were just cheering for us. So yes, if he's talking about us cussing, yeah, there was cussing, but it was in the direction of our team going, let's go. We're trying to bring the energy. We are 75 people that were watching for Team USA, and they had whatever 20, 30,000. So we're going to try to make any noise we can and keep our guys pumped up and give them some momentum. So from my understanding, that's what happened. I don't know. I didn't know if anyone else did. And hope I everyone we all talked about it, and they were like, no, we didn't do it. And we all, Furyk backed us and said, well, I didn't hear any of this. So that's, I think, maybe where it came from. So I don't know exactly,
Yep.
but
I know that's more of a question for him than it is for you, but I was just curious to get your perspective on that one. But what was the highlight of the celebration? What will you remember about that night?
all right, let me think. Let me think.
Heard there's some karaoke.
Oh yeah, there was some karaoke. That actually was a lot of fun. So we get back to the team room area at the golf course, and we're all celebrating shots and some great speeches, and then we have to pack up, and then we get on the bus, and there's two buses to take everybody, and we were on the bus that did karaoke, and there was multiple people that did it. I got up and did it. Austin Kaiser did it. Sahith did it. Jim Furyk did it. It was great. So that was really fun.
Who sang
Um,
what? Do you remember who had what?
uh, Yeah, I mean, Sahith saying "I'm on a boat."
Uh,
Um, so that was great on the bus, and then I did "Drop 'Em Out" by Wheeler Walker Jr., which is a very derogatory song. Not proud of it, but it was funny. So that was that was on the celebration.
what about Jim? What's he doing?
Well, I think he did an Eminem song. I think.
Really?
Yeah, and then Austin Kaiser has memorized. He didn't even have to look at it. He's memorized every word of Vanilla Ice. He was like he put on a performance. That was hilarious. So that was a great moment. And then another awesome moment was a show. Hideki's caddy was doing was arm wrestling with everybody. I mean, this is late in the night, so everyone's had a few drinks, and show was arm wrestling everybody, and he lost to somebody, and he's got up and was like, I don't care, and he pulled up his shirt, and on his shirt was sharpied Hideki one up over Scotty Scheffler, and so he had someone wrote that on his stomach, and he pointed to that and said, "It's okay, one up over Scotty." And so that was really funny. I mean, we all lost it, and so he kept showing it all the time. So that was pretty funny.
You mentioned speeches. Who's giving speeches? What's being covered in some of those, and kind of what do you remember about that?
Like
Yeah,
post.
post round like celebration. I'm just kind of curious on that one.
Yeah, well, obviously Jim came in and gave an awesome thing, and his wife did too. And then there's some other players and some caddies. Scotty Vale, Keegan's caddy, said some really nice words. Austin did as well. And then it was really cool as we did the whole thing. And then Keegan was the last guy that stood up and pretty much said how amazing this was, and how excited he is for the Ryder Cup, and kind of got us all even more pumped for the next year. So there was a handful of guys, I'd say probably 5 or 6 people that stood up and said some really nice things. And then throughout the night there was many toasts
Yeah.
to certain people and great things, but those are kind of the speeches that were said.
I forget if I think I asked a version of this earlier, but kind of want to circle back on this from your first Ryder Cup. I know it's a kind of overwhelming experience, but I'm curious if you had any takeaway after that was done with Rome. Did you look at like how Europe did things, how they bonded, how they approached things? Did you take anything from that and say, "Ooh, okay, I didn't know if I understood that about team golf, but that is something that we could borrow over on the U.S. side." I really like how the way they've done this in particular. Any kind of takeaways from being in that competition?
No, I wouldn't necessarily say it was anything that they did specifically that I think we looked at. I think a lot of us collectively after Rome had conversations. I remember Brian Harmon and I having conversations, Xander, I mean, Scotty, Sam Burns, a lot of us were having these conversations all throughout the year of, can't believe we did this. We need to do this. Even Max Homa was involved too. We need to do this next time. We need to make sure this is set up. And so we all just were talking about that. And then we were relaying it to the people that kind of help run these team events, and just said, hey, we played on sports teams growing up. Like, we played high school basketball, we played high school sports. We love other sports. We're not just golfers. And we kind of had a fragmented situation. We need to make sure that it is the best possible. And so we all collectively as a team said, hey, this is what we should do. And that's why I applaud what Jim did. Is, Jim's been a captain of other teams and obviously had things that he's done in the past that were successful. and he adapted some of the things and that we said that we really wanted, and just gave us the best atmosphere for us to play well.
Well, a topic I'm sure. Tell me when you think you're going to get sick of talking about the 2023 U.S. Open. What's the runway? 10, 15 years you think we have to ask about
Yeah,
that one?
no, I'll never get sick of it. I'll never get sick of it. I'm hoping that's not the only one we get to talk about.
Well, going to that final round, there's a lot of big names up on the leaderboard. Again, from all of us sitting on the outside, granted, you had just won Wells Fargo a couple weeks before that, but it seemed like it would have been an upset. As of that morning, if you'd asked me, if Wyndham Clark wins the U.S. Open, would that have been upset? I would have said yes to that. I'm maybe looking back on it, I might say differently, but how did you feel that morning? Did you feel like there was an underdog in any way going into that, or kind of? I know your mental journey is in that part is kind of well documented of how confident you were, but internally, deep down, anywhere, were you like, man, can I really win the U.S. Open?
You know what's funny is that I think part of the reason why I won that week is I never really got there mentally. Obviously, you think about it. I had so much confidence coming off of winning at Quail Hollow. Had a back nine lead at Memorial and just didn't finish well, and Victor won. And so I was playing really good golf, and so I just felt like I was in such a good mental state that I didn't really think about that. But as far as underdog, I mean, I definitely was reminded pretty much every hole and every shot that I was the underdog because I was playing with Ricky, and for every 100 Ricky chance there was maybe go Wyndham or whatever. So I was reminded that I was definitely the underdog, and everyone was rooting Rory. And there's even people as the day went on saying that I was going to choke and or whatever it
Really?
was. So yeah, oh yeah, I heard all the things, and so I definitely felt like an underdog, but I had the self belief, and I felt comfortable with that golf course, and obviously things worked out.
Line up your first win when you bet this week on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. They're in Vegas this week. Tom Kim going for three Shriners in a row. He's plus 1,200. Matt McCarty is plus 4,000. He loves desert golf. He finished second in Utah on the Corn Ferry Tour. He won last week in Utah. I'm going to take a look at that at plus 4,000. I thought he'd be a lot lower than that. You can check out live golf markets every week to stay in the action. Even after the first tee, you can track every shot live in the app and watch select par 3 holes while you place your bets. Just go to fanduel.com/NLU and get $200 in bonus bets. FanDuel, official betting operator of the PGA Tour. Must be 21 and older, 18 and older in DC and present in select states. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. First online real money wager, only $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Back to Wyndham Clark. The shot on the 72nd hole, your drive off the 72nd hole. From those who are watching at home, a lot of people were expecting that ball to be way off the planet. Take us to that spot. The Pro Tracer was showing a big old fade to the right. I think it was back into the sun. I don't know how well you saw it, but take us to that shot. After you hit it, were you expecting that ball to be in the fairway?
Well, okay, so I've seen the shot tracer since, and I think we actually talked to some people, and they go, "Well, you were on the farthest right side of the tee box, and the camera is over here, and so the angle's a little bit off." And they go, "That sometimes happens where it accentuates the amount of cut." It did cut a lot. I didn't see it because of the sun, and that's always tough. I was trying to hit a big cut. I was trying to hit
You you
minimum.
you were trying to hit a big cut? No way. I
Yeah,
don't believe it.
yeah. I was trying to hit a big cut. So it was trying to go between minimum 20 yards. The hole before I hit one of the best drives of my career under the circumstances, just laced a tight little fade on 17, tough tee shot. And obviously you could set up and try to do that shot, but I didn't want to aim anywhere near the right hazard because I thought as long as I don't hit that hazard, even if I hit it left, I can chip it up short of the green and have a chance to get up and down to win the US Open. So I hit the shot. I don't see it. I turn. John, my caddy's like, I didn't see it either. And then Ricky Romano, Ricky's caddy, he's like, oh, I think it's on this flag, which was, he goes, oh yeah, it should be fairway. And I was like, oh, okay, good. Like everyone was a little concerned, and even some of the people started pointing right. And Ricky was like, no, I think it's fairway. And we get up there and it's 10, 15 yards within the cut line. So I think there was just a combination. Yes, it cut a lot, but I also think the shot tracer made it seem like, oh no, this might be going in the hazard.
Have you always been like hit big slinging cuts like that? Kind of take me into your off the tee philosophy. I mean, you're one of the longest guys out there. Do you have more in the tank if you were playing less of a cut? I'm kind of curious how you came up with your off the tee strategy.
Yeah, I would for sure. I think have more in the tank. It would spin less. When I'm really swinging good, it's a pretty minimal cut, to be honest. It's more like a 5 to 15 yards, and that's when I'm kind of maximizing my distance with a cut. But as I've kind of progressed in my game, owning my own swing, I've gotten to where under pressure, I want it to only go one way. And so I'll start it way left and cut it back into the fairway. Or if you can miss right or whatever it is, I make sure I'm cutting it. So do I ever want to hit 40, 50-yard cuts? No, that's not the shot I necessarily like. Fortunately, that fairway was really big. And I think if it wasn't so wide, I would have hit a different shot. But yeah, I mean, I try to cut it. It's amazing now on tour. I think a majority of the players out there are cutting the golf ball off the tee just because it's so much easier with the drivers these days to hit a cut. It's almost like the drivers set up for cuts now. So
I would love to borrow some of that. I've only seen it go right to left for like 2 years now, and I can't fit.
well, I will say I'm a cutter, but I wish I had more draw in my in my game too. So
We could merge and be a heck of a driver of the golf ball.
yeah,
Are there any places in particular that you potentially find limiting on tour with your left to right shot shape? Any courses that stick out to say, there's some trees down the left that force my eyes a different way, or kind of more shots that encourage right to left. Nothing's coming to mind off the top of my head, but I'm curious what your reaction is.
yeah. You know what's funny is everyone always thinks Augusta you have to hook it or hit a big draws. You really don't. I mean, there's a few holes it helps, but I have the ability and I've worked on. I can hit it very straight and even sometimes draw it. Maybe not with driver, but I really have learned to draw it with a 3 wood, so that helps. I'm trying to think of another golf course. One that I won at actually. There's some holes that it really helps at Quail Hollow. You look at the second hole; it really helps to draw it. It's nice to maybe draw it on the third hole. It's great on, I mean, a handful of holes, the 11th hole, the 10th hole. So there are some courses that we know when I get there, it's automatically a little uncomfortable for me. And so, but we prepare for that. We work on the range to make sure we're really neutral that week so that I have the ability to try to hit it a lot straighter and we're not as cut biased. Hilton Head is one, but I don't, I finished third there this year. So I feel like my game can travel. It's just a matter of where it's at, in that week. If I'm playing good, I feel like I can play anywhere.
Yeah, that's where I was riding you hard in this past winter into spring, was just because Bay Hill, was tough golf course. But I mean, TPC Sawgrass, if you can get around that golf course, like it's playing some pretty serious golf, right? I mean, that's it kind of, if you had to point at any results that have been especially validating outside of your wins or courses you've played well on, what comes to mind?
I mean, the first 2 days, I have not played well at Bay Hill or Players traditionally. Just making the cut there is in the past has been a win for me. The courses just haven't felt that great and comfortable for me. And to finish second at Bay Hill and the Players, and specifically the first 2 rounds at the Players are probably some of the best golf I've played, maybe ever, other than at Quail Hollow. I played 4 amazing rounds there. I mean, I was 14 under through 2 rounds and just really had so much control of the golf ball and was making putts and the up and downs you need, and that really was amazing golf. And then little things. I try to look at all the great things that you do mentally and around. I played amazing the first round at Harbortown RBC, and I played really good, but didn't make any putts, and ended up shooting like 1 under and was way behind. And I remember going to back to the place, was so pissed off, and like, why am I not scoring? And it was just after missing the cut at the Masters, and it was kind of a turning point in the year a little bit. And I just focused on playing the next day and trying to be my best that day. And I shot 5 under, and then the next round 5 under, and then the next round a little bit better, and almost had a chance to win the tournament. And so little things like that where people don't know the behind story, or that you maybe struggled at courses certain times, and when you break through and play sometimes finishing fifth at a course you never play good, that's a win, right?
Totally.
Because there really are courses that fit your game better than others, and we see that all the time. Certain guys win at certain places, and so when you play good at a course that you traditionally don't play good at, that's when you're really playing the best and you're mentally the best.
You got to do a lot of really freaking cool stuff over the last couple years. We haven't even, we're 40 minutes into this and haven't talked about you were an Olympian. You played in the Olympics this past year in Paris. How did that experience kind of go for you compared to what you expectations you had going into it?
It was the greatest experience I probably ever had in sports. I obviously winning the U.S. Open is the biggest accomplishment I've had, and it was amazing. But to experience the Olympics as an Olympian, I mean, not many people get to say they do that, and that's kind of the pinnacle of sports is the Olympics. And going to all the events I got to go to, playing in it, and there's so many fans there, and the atmosphere. There's just something about the Olympics that is just so much greater than everything else. So it was the best experience I've ever had. Obviously, very frustrated with my first round, and I was playing good golf, or at least in the practice rounds. I just was literally 5 over through 4 holes, and then fought my way back to shoot, even or 1 over or whatever I shot. Take away those first 4 holes, and I play them even par. That's 4 or 5 shots. I mean, I might have had a chance to be on the podium. So, I had a great week, and I was really proud of my comeback, and it was an amazing experience.
If you had to choose between one of these two options, you only get to play in one more Ryder Cup or one more Olympics. Which one would you choose between the two?
Oh man, that's
You
tough.
said it was the greatest experience ever, so I'm going to put you to the test on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably say the Olympics. It was
Wow.
amazing. Yeah.
Which I think is a view that not a lot of people in golf held as of 2016 when this started, right? It just seems like this thing is gaining more and more momentum. Did you have big expectations for what the week was going to be like prior to it, or how much of was were you tracking standings going into it, knowing what you needed to do to get into that top four on the U.S. side?
I definitely was tracking the standings. That was really important to me. I wanted to make it, but I do think 2016 was the first one, and it was in a country that's not that big into golf. So I don't know if it was, everyone said it was great, but it didn't quite have the traction. And then obviously you go to Japan where it would have been amazing, but it was COVID. So then it didn't really feel that maybe big for the players there. And then this one, I think everyone realized, wow, this is a major. There was 30 plus thousand every day. It was really important to everybody, and there's nothing like wearing the red, white, and blue and representing your country, especially at that level. So it, I prepared hard for it. I wanted to try to win a medal. I want to make multiple teams going forward. I mean, it really is the coolest thing. So I think it's becoming really big in golf, and I remember talking with Rory about it. He's like, this is one of our biggest events, and it needs to be advertised that way because it felt like that in France, and I'm hoping it continues to feel like that in all the other ones because it felt like a major, and you had the best players all fighting at the end, trying to get one of those medals, which is pretty cool.
Hypothetical for the Olympics, would you, let's say you are in second place, one shot behind, playing the final hole of the tournament? Would the fact that there are three medals available at the Olympics make you potentially play that hole differently than if it was a major championship? Because I found, I forget what the exact scenario was, but I know Tommy needed to make some kind of save on eight, or the way he played the 18th hole was consistent with like trying to win a medal, which like I'm not hating on that at all. I think I would think the answer would be yes, because it is a different kind of event than what you guys typically play.
Yeah, I mean, just look at a normal major or tour event. If you finish fourth, there's obviously a lot of points, money, world ranking points, all the things that happens. So, yeah, you're also concerned about, hey, the difference between fourth and third in a regular event. Yeah, it's one place and it's great and whatever, but to risk losing that fourth place and going to ninth or 10th is so big in our sport. But at the Olympics, it really is. It's either first, second, or third, and almost everything else
Nothing.
doesn't
Yeah.
really. Not that it doesn't matter, but
You don't get
you're
anything.
just going for those three. So yeah, 100%. I mean, if I was in fourth place and let's say those guys were already finished, and there was a chance if I birdied the last hole or eagled it, I would have a chance to medal. I mean, I wasn't hitting driver on that hole. I would have hit driver to try to get up there. Do I have a wedge in so that I could try to hole out the shot or give myself the best chance of birdie? And if I didn't, at least I went down swinging.
That's the easy one. That my question was, if you're in second place, like, is it worth
Oh,
risking going for the gold? You know what I mean? Would you approach it
oh yeah.
differently in that spot?
I don't know. I think you play the hole and hope you make a putt.
Okay.
Is my opinion. Like especially that hole. That was a really tough hole, the 18th at La Nacional. I would have probably done what I did all week, which was kind of hit a 2 iron or 3 wood in play and leave myself kind of that 9 to 7 iron in. Hit a conservative shot to hopefully. I mean, hopefully you stone it, but the pin was tough. Hit it to
Yeah.
25 feet and just say, you know what? I have a 25 footer to try to 100% solidify a silver medal, but potentially get into that gold. I mean, getting on the podium is winning,
That's what I'm
truthfully.
saying.
Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
finishing first, second, third is winning. Yes, gold is amazing, but there's so many people that they win a bronze and that lasts forever. And no one goes, oh, wow, well, you didn't win gold or silver. They're like, you were top three in the world in your thing at that moment, which is so amazing. So,
Which, like, that sentiment, I almost feel like should be for a sport where you win so infrequently. It should be more recognized in sports. I think people were doing kind of the analysis of it afterwards. It was like, if there were podiums at majors, Jack Nicklaus would have 57 of them, right? And like, don't you would view some careers a lot differently if you looked at top threes. Instead, golf kind of just becomes this: did you win this thing or did you not? And it's just kind of crazy in a sport that it's so unlikely that you're going to actually go out and win.
oh, I know. I mean, that's the one unfortunate thing about the golf and the Olympics is we have 60, 70 guys playing for 3 spots versus, you go to swimming and there's 12 guys or 20 guys and then they qualify and then there's only 8 guys that race that are going for 3 spots versus we have 60
Yeah.
teeing it up. It's very unlikely that you're going to win. So to have a chance is like, potentially once in a lifetime.
My memory might be fuzzy on this, but just in preparing for this, I came to the conclusion you haven't made many headlines in terms of in the midst of all of this PGA Tour, PIF, Live stuff over the course of several years. What are you hoping happens at the end of all this? What is your hope sitting here right now today?
I would say I just want what's best for golf, to be honest. And I think that's kind of where everyone's narrative is going now, where, I think fractured golf obviously isn't good for the game of golf. And I just want what's best. I think I love golf so much, and I think it is growing in every category. People consuming golf, people starting golf. Obviously Top Golf helped with that, but now you're seeing the putt shacks and whatever that are indoors. You're seeing all these simulator golf things. You're seeing night golf at par 3 courses. You're seeing, people buying more clubs, consuming golf. The clothes are getting cooler. Everything is growing in the game of golf. And I think having a fractured professional level of it, I think hurts it a little bit because we want people to now look at the highest level and be like, we're watching the best players play. And it's so cool and amazing. So to answer your question fully, I just hope that eventually we have all the best players playing together and that it works out to where it's mutually beneficial for everyone that's involved in it. And so I just want the best thing for golf.
Do you hold? I guess is it difficult for you at all to think about live play, like in a hypothetical? Again, a lot of people will say these players don't want to come back and play on the PGA Tour. But in this scenario, if people wanted to come back to the PGA Tour and play, is that difficult for you to swallow at all, or are you at the point now to say, like, bygones be bygones, let's do the best thing for the game moving forward?
I don't know. I think it depends on who it is.
That is very true too.
I think guys that have had the career where they should be lifelong PGA Tour players, I think they deserve the right to be able to come play the PGA Tour. I think guys that maybe left and didn't have that pedigree and career, and I don't know if I think those are the guys that I'd struggle with because they made their decision, right? So they chose to go play there, take the money, and I think that's what a lot of us wrestle with.
Sure.
If Dustin Johnson wants to come back and Phil Mickelson and guys that have won and Brooks and who have won majors and are probably most likely Hall of Famers, they deserve to play wherever the hell they want because they're so good. But there's just other guys that I think that's where we struggle with because then we look at it going, man, a lot of us had a chance to take the money, and if we 100% knew we could take the money and come back, then we'd all would have done that because we all would have been way richer, and then you come back and actually play at the highest level. So it's a tough question, but at the end of the day, I really try to just concern myself with what I can control. And if I'm playing my best golf, regardless of what happens, I'm going to have a place to play. And that's all I care about because I love the game and I want to try to be the best I can be.
Does it matter to you if any of those guys were among the 11 that sued the PGA Tour when they left? Has that caused any bitterness on your end?
Yeah.
Sure, that's totally reasonable. You're answering very shyly, but I would say 100%. I mean,
Yeah. I
that's
mean,
where I'd
that
end up.
is something that I think frustrated a lot of us is, I mean, the PGA Tour gave everyone a platform to play and to create who these people were, to give them an unbelievable living and lifestyle, and then to turn around and sue them, I just think is maybe not the right thing, regardless if they were in the wrong or not. I just don't think, because at the end of the day, you're not suing like PJ Tour as just the executives. You're also suing the players, and that's what I think is really was frustrating for us, seeing friends and guys that we were close with turning around and suing us and going, "Hey, you're actually now affecting us." Like it's one thing if you just sue one specific guy and or the executives of the PGA Tour. Yeah, I don't think we would have that would bother us that much. But when you sue the whole of the PGA Tour,
Yeah.
that starts taking money out of our purses. That starts affecting our future in the PGA Tour.
I think it's interesting too, though. If you flip it around, I agree with pretty much everything, entirely what you said there, actually. But if you flip it around, you have been one of the great benefactors on the PGA Tour side in terms of winning two signature events, obviously increased purses of like if I'm looking at, you've made $26 million on course. I think 20 has come in the last two seasons. Has that changed your life at all?
Yeah,
Having that
I mean,
significant of a bump.
100%. I mean, so it is amazing when it initially happened. Obviously, we all had mixed feelings, but we've all benefited from it. I mean, regardless of the hostility or the grudges maybe people have with guys leaving or whatever happened, it has made us all a lot wealthier, and we're playing for bigger purses, and so we all there's also a lot of stuff that we benefit from. So it is tough. That's why I think that's why everyone now has changed their narrative a little bit and said, you know what, we just want where things are now. We just want to continue to grow that, but just do that with the best players and however that look. I mean, I really don't know how that's going to look, but we've all benefited from it. I mean, we're
Well,
starting to get courses where I think they should be based on how much the tournaments are making off of us, etc. So I think yes, I benefited so much from it. It's changed my life. If I had the same years that I've had these last 2 years, I mean, it'd be half the amount of money, maybe even a third of the amount of money. So
I do think it is a bit short term. Like the benefits, you've reaped the benefits greatly there. I think for the health of the game, I would struggle to picture it going the way that's currently going forever. Right? I just don't.
yeah,
I have a lot of that's a. We could talk a whole nother hour probably on that part. I think but it's going to be very interesting. I enjoy asking pretty much everyone about it because everyone's got an interesting perspective, and it's your guys' careers and livelihood at stake. But at the same time, we try to be the voice of the fan here to say like the people are ready to see some change, getting everyone back together and playing golf and see the game thrive at the top.
yeah. I mean, the funny thing is getting everyone back together. It really is like 5 to 6 players, though. I mean, if you really boil it down, maybe 8 or 9, but like it's not like you're taking 30 of their players and saying, "Oh, we miss." I'm not going to name names, but it's not like certain people go, "Oh, I really miss this player that was on the PGA Tour." It really is just kind of the household names that everyone
Sure.
knows that won majors. So it's not. I guess if you look at it as a PGA Tour player, it's like, well, it's probably realistically 7 to 8 guys that are going to come back and play, and those are the guys that typically are playing in the majors, and that's when everyone is excited because we're all playing against each other. So at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, from a fan's perspective. Those guys can be important though, right? I mean, in terms of
No,
interest
no, no,
and
no, I'm saying
you're right. The likelihood of like some interesting storylines, developing throughout the course of the week. I think we didn't know how good we had it in 2021. We were spoiled,
yeah,
I think. So
yeah, 100%.
so golf's got some downtime now in the fall. How you gonna be spending that fall? What's your life like off the course? I hear you're a little bit of a foodie, I think, as well. We don't know a whole heck of a lot about. I mean, you were in Netflix. We saw a little bit of it, but what's life like off the course for you?
Yeah, Netflix, they kind of showed the golf stuff. They didn't show a ton of the off the course stuff. So, I love to be in the gym a ton. So I'll be spending a lot of time doing that. I'll get some time away from golf. I will be fishing. I'll be traveling. You mentioned I'm a foodie. I love tacos. I love sushi. I love to travel and try the best foods in the countries I travel to. And with that, I've become quite a bourbon connoisseur. So I really enjoy bourbon. And so there's a lot of things I'll be enjoying this off season.
Well, yeah, we've been doing ad reads for Blade and Bow all year long with your name in them because we know you're a big Blade and Bow enthusiast and supporter of it, and cocktail drinker, I believe, as well with them.
Yeah, it was really, really neat for me that, I've been, growing up in Colorado, you spend a lot of time out in the woods, fishing, whether that's hunting or skiing. And it's always nice to have some bourbon there. And so getting involved with Blade and Bow just seems like a perfect organic relationship. And so I love Blade and Bow. I've grown to drink it many different ways. I do it on the rocks. I do it neat. They also came up with this Kentucky Caddy, which is
Mm-hmm.
unbelievable for the summer. So I drink it sometimes even on the golf course. So I've really enjoyed my relationship with them and how that's worked out. And the great benefit is I get a bunch of bourbon, and so I don't have to pay for bourbon anymore. So that's pretty nice.
I'm right there with you. It's these nice, big, beautiful bottles. It's a fantastic product. I greatly
Yeah, it
enjoy
is
it.
really
So
good.
it's maybe a little early in the day to fully go down that route, but you know what? It's Friday. I'm ready to start my weekend. So
Yeah, perfect. Well, let's cheers to that.
oh, cheers to that. Thanks so much for your time, Wyndham. Best of luck next season. I'm sure we'll look forward to hear. We got to do this again sometime. This was absolutely great, and yeah, best of luck next season.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you having me on, and would love to do it again.
Cheers. For FanDuel, must be 21 and older and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 and older and present in D.C. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Thanks for tuning in.